Hey there, pilots. This is Pete with BananaHobby.com. Welcome to your box and build of the FMS Blitz RC Works ASW 28 scale sailplane. Let's talk a little bit about sailplanes. There's quite a bit of different looks on how people actually view sailplanes. A lot of people say, okay, these are gliders. A lot of people say these are scale sailplanes. And to me, growing up, I flew a lot of sailplanes without any power on it, where I would head to a local cliff or a cliff by a beach or some kind of a mountainside where there's a cliff or a mountain where the air currents would come up off the cliff, creating an upcurrent, and then you can actually fly along the ridge. That's a very, very popular type of flying, and it's one of my favorite. And with this type of an airplane now, it brings what I used to do when I used to build fiberglass fuselage ships in sailplane sizes to something that's very limited on the build time, and then you're out enjoying this. And the benefits of this is what I call power-assisted slope soaring, or power-assisted sailing, or soaring. Because you can just have fun with this. This can go to your local park, your local ball field, and then you can just power up, toss it, and fly all day pretty much on a few batteries, because you can shut the throttle down. You can still catch hot air currents called thermals, and then you can stay in the air for quite a long time. And they are still very, very aerobatic. So this is a very fun airplane. The ASW 28 in this box here is probably one of my most favorite sailplanes around. I've flown a lot of sailplanes, from Duodiscus to a Ventus to a Salto to ASKs, and then this is the ASW. I love the ASW class, ASW 27s, 28s. They're beautiful replicas of the actual sailplane. So this will come to you in EPO foam format with a folding front-mounted propeller on a brushless outrunner. The wingspan on this is 2,300 millimeters, which comes in at just over 90.5 inches. So it's 90.6 inches in wingspan. So this is a very big sailplane. The battery of choice here is an 1,800 milliamp rating 3-cell pack. And I believe there is ample enough room in here for up to a 2,500, but we'll get more into that as we get into the build portion of it. And this is your basic 4-channel format. So you have your elevator, your rudder, your throttle, and then your aileron. So everything's very carefree. The wings break down into halves and comes off of the fuselage for ease of transport, of course. This is something that I love doing. Something I'm very passionate about with flying sailplanes. It's something very, very relaxing. And also, this is something that if you're a beginner pilot with a little bit of 4-channel experience or 3-channel, this is something you can handle because of the large, wide wingspan and the slow-to-react ratio. It makes it a very good teaching tool as well, or teaching aircraft. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and cut this open. And then you and I will go through what comes in this box of this ASW 28. I'm looking at the writing up here. And we will get into the build here shortly here, and I'll show you exactly how fast these things actually come together. No gluing that I remember of, except for maybe the servo covers for the ailerons. Everything else screws down into place, which is good because you can actually remove it for transportation purposes or if you need to replace a part, so it's always good. Again, FMS Blitz always has this top cardboard layer here to keep everything safe from crushing during shipment. And the actual box itself is very, very stout. Okay, so the ASW 28 ships here just like this. We're going to go ahead and take the center lodge piece off. That keeps everything from moving around. As I have tape stuck all over my hand right now. All right. Okay, my fingers are stuck. Awesome. Okay, the first thing that comes out is your ASW 28 instruction manual, and then the back one is the ESC programming manual, which we will talk about in a little while once we get into the actual build. There's very limited amount of pieces in here, so this makes this type of building extremely easy and extremely fun too. Okay, out comes one of the main wings. This is the left wing here, and they do have winglets, so we will be installing those. And it's this full EPO foam construction. What a nice looking finish here on this wing, on this ASW here. Cool. So let's go ahead and get this other wing out here. So this is your right wing. And this right wing comes to you just like this, pretty much ready to go. We will be installing hinges. These are live EPO hinges, which I will talk later about how to actually break them in. We just kind of rotate them a few times. We'll talk more about that once we get there. So the next thing we have coming out now is the main fuselage. Here we go. A beautiful ASW 28 fuselage here. What's known with the ASW 28s are how thin the back section, the tail section, is on these fuselages. As you can see here, pretty thin back here. We have your pilot pre-installed, the little instrument panel ready to go, and your folding propeller and the motor is pre-installed and set. And your canopy actually just comes right off like that, and underneath is your battery compartment. And I can tell you right now, definitely, you can go as high as maybe a 2600 3-cell if you wanted to. There's plenty of enough space in here. And you would probably just CG it a little bit, check the center of gravity, of course, always. You have your two of your main wheels here, your main wheel and your tail wheel pre-mounted, in case you wanted to do any kind of grass landing or dirt landing. Let's go ahead and set that aside. Very limited amount of pieces in here. Let's go ahead and grab the main wing spar. Okay, there's one. That's a smaller guide spar. And this is the main wing spar. There we go. So these come out. These will be set aside for the actual build of it. And over here we have this bag will have your wing cover, the top of the wing hatch cover here, and then your two winglets. And what's cool about the winglets is the fact that it's not glued on there at all. These are just basically slid into position, so you can actually remove them if you wanted to, or if you break them, it's very easy to replace here. And then we have the horizontal stabilizer, which is also carbon sparred here, and then there's actually a rectangular spar in the elevator to keep the rigidity up here. So that's pretty much ready to go, and that's really nice. I can see that it's also bolted down to the vertical stabilizer, so you do not have to glue it. And the main wing, I don't know if I mentioned it, it is wing sparred once again, even the short one, and then the longer one is sparred pretty much all the way to here. And then the ailerons have rectangular carbon in it to keep the actual rigidity there as well. Really nice looking kit here. Okay, and then the next bag we're coming out, we have your wing joiner, the top and the bottom wing half joiner, and then you have your wing bolts, a screwdriver, and a Y-harness for the aileron servos there. And that's pretty much it. The last thing that comes out is what we call the included rubber cement. And this is pretty much included with most all of the FMS Blitz RC Works planes. And this glue actually works really good. We'll figure out where this glue is used on this build a little bit later once we get to the build portion. But for now, as you can see, I have the ASW 28 here laid out on my workbench. And there are pretty much only 4 main pieces to actually deal with to get this built. When I was a kid, it took me like months to build one of these and retrofit it with all of my own electronics, servos and everything. And you crash those things one time and they're pretty much done. And this is EPO foam. And you could probably get done with this within like half an hour of a build time. So now let's go ahead and jump straight into the build, and then we'll go into talking about the receiver and transmitter if you get it as a ready-to-fly format from Banana Hobby, and if you were to use your own, what to choose for. Let's go ahead and start the build. Have a big enough working space so that you're able to build this without any kind of obstructions bouncing around and things like that. I always suggest a big open area. This is something that's really fun. When I was a kid, it's something like building a model with your dad, or like building Legos or something. And nowadays, kids are so advanced, and this is something you could do really well with your family. Incorporate your family into your flying and the build here. So let's go ahead and start this build. We will revert to the manual here and see what they tell us to do from step to step here. However, I think I will most likely just jump into building this Pete style, basically I call it, because it makes things a little bit more efficient and easier for the build. Okay, the steps of the manual, first of all, says for us to join the wings. And right there, I will already alter it from the manual because there's a couple of things that we can do to make the build quite a bit easier for when we actually get to the building of the joining of the main wings. Right now, step number 1 for this ASW 28 build, I would like for you to empty the contents of this entire bag, which are all the plastic pieces and the Y splitter and the control surface horns here. Okay, so these are the aileron covers, which that's where the glue will be needed later on. We're not going to be using these right now, so we will set those aside. We're going to set the Y splitter aside. Okay, let's go ahead and open this bag here. This bag will have the contents of your control surface horns. There we go. And then your bag of screws, so we'll leave that aside, and then a supplied Phillips head screwdriver, which we will use. Okay, let's see here. So right now, what I would like for you to do is to install all of the control surface horns onto your ailerons. And from looking at this, the bags are not labeled, so this one has 4 push rods in it. So I would say this is probably for the tail section here, so let's go ahead and set that aside. This bag has, oh, I'm sorry, I take that back. This bag actually, see, they tricked you. This bag here with 2 more clevises, 2 more control surface horns, and the little Allen key, this is a bag of bonus goodies. Just in case you break something, this is the bag you go to use. So we're going to set that one aside. This bag with your 2 push rods, actually 3 push rods, and your control surface horns, this is the bag we're looking to get into here. So let's go ahead and empty the contents here. Right onto the table. There we go. One of them will be for the elevator here. So we're going to set one aside. They seem to be all the same length. So here we go. These little control surface backings here, there's a little bit of flash on here. Flash is just the residual plastic that's left over once these parts come out of the mold. Back when we built model airplanes, you know, we dealt with that all the time when you had to cut your own parts off of the tree branch, like a branch thing there. So I'm such a perfectionist, so I'm always trying to make things perfect. So there we go. So those are ready to go. If you're using a hobby knife, be really careful. So now, since this is a one-piece EPO foam hinge, I will grab it and I will go ahead and do a couple of revolutions like this, up and down, just to loosen up the foam hinge and release some of the tension, the load off of the servo for a, for better efficiency, basically. And all this is covered right here, the servo wire. So go ahead and press down with your hand. Make sure that covering is on there nice and good, nice and well. So that's good. That works. All right, let's go ahead and install the control surface horn. The control surface horn will be facing that direction. The holes will be facing towards the servo here. Let's go ahead and get this a little bit closer in here. There we go. Okay, these are reverse mounting, so we will push the control surface horn onto the aileron itself, just like that. Okay, and then we will flip it, and then hang on to this. Well, it just popped off. Hang on to it on the bottom side with your finger, and with the control surface backing, we will just put this right up on top here. Let's check this and see which side. Okay, so it's the left and the right. What the screws have to go to here. Okay, in the bag you'll have 3 long, 3 short screws. 2 of these are spares. The longer one right now we will use towards the root of the aileron here because it's thicker. So we're going to go ahead and just test. There we go. That one is already on there. So with the shorter one, we will put it into the diagonal hole here, as you can see. And towards the root here, towards the trailing edge. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten it down. And when I tighten these down, I only tighten them to where I could see that the plastic is starting to pull into the foam just a little bit, and that's plenty enough. So that's one surface horn ready to go here, and that's what it pretty much looks like right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and set that wing aside. And we will do the same thing with the left wing here. All right, these builds are so quick here. Let's go ahead and pop this in. Okay, I'm going to hold that there. Press that aside, make sure that doesn't fall off. If you have any kind of residual foam inside the holes, you can just go ahead and remove it with a pair of needle nose pliers or something, or actually just press it inward. It doesn't actually harm it. Okay, so let's go ahead and press the backing on there. And we will get the longer screw towards the root of the aileron. Okay, that one is biting. And then we will get the shorter one towards the trailing edge there. And it's diagonal here. There we go, we're good. We're gonna hang on to that a little bit and we will tighten her down. This is where I will go to the supplied screwdriver because that actually has a better fitment. There we go. So that's pretty much ready to go here. And I have a feeling I did miss on that one. So let's go ahead and check this real quick, because if there's no tension on the screw going into the actual backing or going into the actual horn itself, you want to recheck it. Sometimes, you just may miss. There we go. And if so, you want to make sure you check it, because this is a crucial part of your control surface here. There we go. Yeah, it looks like I did miss that one just a little bit, so now it's there. There we go, and we are good to go. So your second wing is now done. We're going to go ahead and set that aside. And there's only one bag with a few longer screws in it here. Okay, so right now let's go ahead and set these control horns aside, push rods, and then these screws aside, because those are spares there. We don't want to lose those. Let's go ahead and empty out this bag. So this bag has, let's see, longer screws and shorter screws, and there are duplicates in here because they are spares. So this piece actually looks okay. We're going to go ahead and grab the fuselage here with the vertical stabilizer. So on the vertical stabilizer here, your control surface horn, which I am going to clean up just a little bit. It's a little bit of flash on there. You can also do this. You don't have to do this with a hobby knife if you don't want to. If you don't have one, you can just do it with some sandpaper. Or even if your driveway, I'm always doing that on my driveway. It's smooth concrete, so I just go like this, like that, and it'll take some of that flash off. So we're going to install the control surface horn for the rudder right onto there and press. We're going to flip the fuselage. Be careful. See, the screw hole will go to the left and to the right. Okay, we're going to flip the backing here. Backing goes right on. Again, the longer screw will go to the thicker portion, which is the root of the rudder here. Let's go make sure that this actually will bite. Make sure again. There we go. I put the screw on the wrong side, because one side is actually a guide post, and then the other side is actually for the screw. So you want to make sure you have that in the right side. There we go, and that is good. We're going to go ahead and tighten this down with the supplied screwdriver. All right, we are tight here, and we are good to go. So that's what I meant by I kind of went away from the manual a little bit, because if you go at this route here, you don't have to have a 90-inch wingspan wing flopping around trying to turn it upside down for you to get those control surface horns on. So this makes it just a little bit easier on you. Our next step now, we will go ahead and join the main wings like the manual had asked us to. So right now I would like for you to locate the bag of machine screws, and they look like this. And we will open this bag here. This is for the wing joiner. Okay, here's another tip for you. Right now we are going to utilize both of these wing spars. Both of these wing spars have dihedral built into it, which means that there's a little angle on it, and you want to find the optimum angle, which it looks like a V here, and you want to mark the center with the Sharpie. Okay, that way you can visibly identify exactly where that center line is when you're inserting this into one wing half. Sometimes it'll go a little farther, sometimes it won't go as far. It doesn't really matter, as long as it's in there, it should be fine. Okay, right now, we will go ahead and insert the wing spar. Check the holes here, because sometimes there's, like this one has a little bit of foam in it, which usually I just kind of press the wing spar all the way through. There we go. So all the foam is out. And I'm going to insert the larger wing spar first, just so where it stops. There we go, right about there. You can see the line there. Sometimes if you put a little bit of masking tape, blue masking tape in the center line, it works out really good because it stops right there. And this one stops pretty good right there, and this one is good right there. Perfect. Okay, so we will get the other wing half, and we will line her up and then just press. Okay, line up the guide rod, there we go. And then if you notice that it kind of went too far here, you can always pull it back out just a little bit, and then press again. There we go, and then ultimately, there we go, perfect. That is a perfect fitment right there. Okay, once we get to this part here, I want to make sure everything's off my table here because we have to work on the wing joiner. Okay, now go ahead and locate your wing joiners, which are these two plastic pieces right here. The one plastic piece with the nuts, you can see them on the bottom side. They're hexagon shaped. Those, the nuts that are already in there, these are, this piece actually goes to the bottom of the wing. So right now we'll flip the wing, and we will insert this just like that, and we'll press. Even pressure with your hand and just press. There we go. We're good. This is the top side, and we're going to press. That is it. So your wing is joined down the middle. If you don't have the space in your car to actually transport this wing here in this fashion, in the whole 90 inches right here, you can take off the 4 screws, take off the wing joiner, and transport it in 2 halves if you wanted to. But right now we're building it the way that the manual has asked us to, so we will locate 4 machine screws. These are the shorter ones, okay? And here's another tip for you. I'll get a Sharpie because I'll tell you why. Right now there are 4 screw holes in the front, 4 in the back. 4 of these are for this main wing joiner to hold it in place, and then 4 of them are for the main wing bolts to hold to the fuselage. And if you don't mark them, there's a chance that when you go to remove the wing from the fuselage, you'll take off the wrong screw, and then you'll end up taking off all 8 because you don't remember which one it is. So right now we'll look underneath, and we can see that the outside holes are the ones with the hexagons. So I'll circle these with a Sharpie. There we go. And then the back ones are the farthest down ones. So these right here. And then I'll write on here, I'll write circle. I'll write circles, do not remove. So you know that those are for the main wings. Okay, so now we'll drop these little silver machine screws into the holes that we did circle. This is to hold the 2 halves together. So if you don't want to remove these, then you want to keep these together. I mean, if you don't want to remove the 2 wing halves. There we go. So we're going to start tightening here with the screwdriver. And then we don't want to tighten all the way down yet. We just want to have it to where there's tension. And once there is tension, we move on to the other screw until we have all 4 pretty much with tension. The fitment of this kit is absolutely great. I mean, everything goes together so easily and in such alignment. And now that one's tight, we can go ahead and tighten the rest down. Okay. That's it. So now you're pretty much ready here. This is your wing joiner, and your main wing is joined down the center line, and this is ready to mount onto your fuselage, which is exactly what we will do right now. And the reason why is because it makes working on the vertical stabilizer a little bit easier so the tail doesn't flop over. But before we do that, you want to go ahead and grab your aileron Y harness, and we're going to connect it to the left and the right ailerons here. And you just want to pull the tape up a little bit and then expose the wire here so you can see the color orientation. So we're going to match up the colors here. There we go. Let's make sure that the tape is back down. And that is out of the way. Perfect. Do the same one for this. So we got brown on that side. There we go. Press it back down. And then on the connector here, on the servo connector, I'll go ahead and write an A on here. So that way when it comes out from the front, you can identify easily that that plug is for the aileron. Okay, there we go. We will now go ahead and remove the canopy. Let's pull back on it from the back here. Pull straight up and slide, and the canopy is off. Okay, the aileron wire here will actually run right down the channel right here and then into the front where you're going to be mounting your receiver. So let's go ahead and mount the main wing. Man, this airplane is so easy to build. There we go. All you're doing is lining it up, and that's pretty much it. Now you will locate 4 of these long machine screws, and we'll go to the 4 holes on here that we did not mark. So those are the wing bolt holes that hold the main wing to the fuselage. A little bit of wiggle so they get down flat, and then you can tighten them down. Okay, there we go. And when you tighten this, when you start getting tension here, you go diagonal. This one's done. That one has a little tension, so I don't want to tighten all the way. I'm going to go diagonal to the far side one. Okay, that one's good. I'm going to go to this one. And that one's tight. And of course, before you fly, you can always do a once over on it. Make sure they are all tightened down. But these are pretty tight for now. There we go. And we're lined up. We're ready to go. And you have your servo lead right in the front here for your ailerons. Okay, so now we will spin her one more time. And we will mount the horizontal stabilizer. Okay, the horizontal stabilizer actually has another bag of screws. They are shorter. They're like medium length machine screws. So we're going to go ahead and remove 2 of these screws. Keep in mind that FMS Blitz RC, we always give you extra screws. So you'll have spares in case you do lose something. Okay, right now this is an EPO foam hinge, so we will go ahead and go like this. Just loosen it up, a few revolutions, and you're good to go. You have a guide slot in here and a guide tab here, so it's simple. All we do is just line it up and drop her down. Okay, we'll get these machine screws and we'll set her up right in through these holes right up here, just like that. And that's how quickly this goes together. Okay, I'm going to just make sure these are snug. Once they bite, there we go. That's plenty. And that is snug. Let me show you something here. This is a regular Craftsman full-size screwdriver Phillips head, and this is the one that's included. Okay, I don't use these screwdrivers to tighten these down, and the reason why I'll tell you, which is a tip, this is pulling down into a plastic washer into foam. This screwdriver has so much leverage on it that even the smallest amount of pressure may exceed what you really want to put as far as torque on these screws. So I will always use the smaller ones because it makes you work a little harder to get these screws tight, but it won't over tighten them. There we go, and that is well tight enough. And just like that, I'm going to go ahead and back the camera out here. Just like that, your ASW 28 is just about complete. You know, look how quickly this went together. I'll show you real quickly here. We'll go ahead and install one side of the winglets here. There we go. Or as you know, we call it, they're side force generators. So this is one winglet. It's going to be tapered backwards for the left winglet, and all you do is you just line this up with a slot here and you slide. That's it. That's how these winglets go on. And there's nothing to it. Now what we will do is we'll talk a little bit about radio setup and radio equipment. I have my system now bound to my own radio system, which we will talk a little bit later on, but right now I am bound to my DX8 here, and we are setting up the control surfaces. I will use the push rod, and I will insert the push rod right here into the top hole of the control arm, the servo arm, coming from the servo. So there's 3 holes. I'm at the farthest away from the servo, the top hole. And then on the control surface itself, we will need to move that little rubber grommet back. That's for safety measures. And then we're going to screw this in a few times because we're looking for a flat control surface here. There we go. Now I will use the center hole on the control surface horn arm here. Okay, so we can see that this is way out of position. The aileron is too high on one side, so I suggest using a pair of pliers and grabbing it and then turning it. This way you don't break the arm on the servo itself. Okay, let's go ahead and you can kind of gauge how far you need to go. So we're screwing it down in to make this shorter. So we'll check this one more time. And you know, that looks pretty good there. Let's kind of gauge it there. That looks good. So we will press this all the way home, all the way through here. And then sometimes if the hole seems to not be big enough, large enough, I'll just get the X-Acto and just give it a little twist, or or a Phillips head screwdriver. Most of them are fine. It's just that sometimes there's a little bit of residual plastic in there. There we go. This one looks good. So we're going to press and clip this home. So that's all the way back. We'll grab this little rubber grommet here, and we'll push this all the way forward to keep it from coming off in flight. And let's check it. Check the surface here. We have correct directional movement. And that's what you were looking for. Top hole, middle hole here, okay? So we're looking for a pretty even push rod, and that's perfect. So go ahead and set that for your other aileron and your rudder and your elevator, and we'll meet you back over here. What we will do now is I will show you what to do with those aileron, what we call aileron covers here. At this time, you should have your airplane, your ASW, pretty close to being complete as far as your radio system installation. Okay, so these are the aileron covers here. What we do now is each one goes on just like that. And what this does is when you're landing on concrete or on the grass, it keeps this servo horn here and the control horn from catching the grass or the dirt and then forcing the servo and then stripping it. So this is always a good thing. You can use clear tape if you wanted to, but I always just use the supplied rubber cement because this actually goes on really strong. But it does not cure to where it's a solid form so that you can't remove it. So you can actually still pull this right off, and it's almost like bubble gum underneath when you pull it off. So we do that right there to both sides. So now what we can do is the remainder portions of it, you want to basically clean up all of this wiring here. And for today's build, we did go ahead and use my DX8, and we are using the full range AR6200, which we will talk a little bit about when we go ahead and talk about the radio system here. Once you have your wiring cleaned up in there to where you can actually get the canopy on, we can now go ahead and snap into position your, this is your top wing cover here. So we're going to go ahead and remove the canopy one more time. And all this does is it goes in, slides in, tongue first on this side, so it looks like this, okay, and then we're going to go ahead and press straight down until you hear a snap, and that's it. And then the canopy goes forward, and then snap. And that is pretty much it. When you go to snap your canopy down, it is a snap mount, so you want to make sure that the wires are not being pinched into the snap areas of the canopy. You should be just about done with your complete build of this beautiful FMS Blitz RC Works ASW28 at this time. Right now, I want to talk about something in the ESC manual, and it's called Throttle Endpoint Calibration, or Throttle Calibration for the first time for your radio system. If you get this as a ready-to-fly format, chances are you may not need to do this. If you're using your own DX7, DX8, JR radios, Airtronics, there's a possibility that you might have to do this, but we're just not really sure. And if you're using a Futaba, you definitely will have to reverse your throttle channel for servo reversing. But what happens is this. If you plug everything in and you get no initializing tone from your motor here saying that it's ready to go, it means that you have to calibrate. You won't have any throttle movement here, but all your control surfaces will move. And that's when you know that you have to do your endpoint calibration, which is really simple. So what we're going to do is now is this. Everything's shut off. We're going to go ahead and turn on our transmitter, which is on, okay? You will set your throttle to all the way up make sure everybody's clear of the propeller, okay? Throttle stick is all the way up, and now we're going to plug it in. Right when you plug it in, you're going to listen for your first 2 initializing tones. It'll beep 2 times. As soon as it beeps twice, 2 times, you lower your throttle stick to the lowest position, and it will beep 2 more times. Okay, so we're going to leave it in the up position. This is just in case that your throttle is not working. Okay, so we're plugged in. We'll listen. There's the first 2 beeps. Okay, actually I did it too quick. Actually, the beeps were too fast. So right after the first 2 beeps, you want to lower the stick. Here we go, one more time. Lower the stick. Okay, that's what you want to listen for. 2 beeps on the top. As soon as you hear those, bring it back down. Hear the 2 beeps on the bottom. And once you do that, your throttle is working. Okay, so that's ready to go here. So we're pretty much set here. Let's go ahead and put the canopy back on. And that is your throttle calibration. Sometimes you may need to do it, sometimes you may not. And it just all depends here. So that is it. We have aileron, your elevator, and your rudder is good. Be careful with the actual the blades here, and then with your elevator not to have too much throw on it that it's binding. And then this is the next part that I want to actually emphasize to. We're going to throttle up. Okay, this is pretty much flying ready. When you shut the throttle off, you'll notice it stops the blades right away. That's called braking. And what you see there is absolutely normal. And the reason why is this. These are folding propellers. If the braking here, if it's not initialized, this will continue to turn. And right now, when you go to turn this by hand, there's a lot of resistance because the speed control is set up so that it's setting up the braking so that it doesn't spin freely. And the reason why is this. On folding propellers, if the brake doesn't initialize, when you go to shut it down, it'll just basically be spinning like this. And the wind hits it, it's going to continue to spin. And then you won't be able to land. When you go to land, you'll break your propeller, or you'll nick it, or you'll chip it, or something like that. So this way, when you're flying forward, as soon as you hit the throttle to stop, it stops the throttle there, and then the wind hits the blades, and the blades fold back, just like that. And then you're ready to land. So you want to make sure your braking on your speed control is always set to on. And if it's not, you can always refer to your ESC manual. It'll tell you exactly what to do to set it to on. But I urge you, don't turn the braking off because you will break your propellers. So again, my name is Pete. Thank you for joining me for today's build review of this FMS Blitz RC Works ASW28. Look forward to showing you some of these cool things we're going to do with a beautiful little sailplane like this with some scale slope soaring to some scale aerobatics. My name is Pete. Please follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and subscribe here as well. If you have any questions for me, go ahead and post them up on the comment box, and I will try to get them answered as soon as I can. I hope you have found this build review fun and entertaining and informational as well. We will see you flying at the field.